Welcome to the CX Central podcast and video cast. My name's Justin Tippett, and today I'm joined by the Managing Director of livepro, Brad Shaw. Welcome, Brad.
Hello, mate. How you going?
Mate, I'm well. It's been a crazy year. Can you believe? I actually looked at the date. It was August 8th, 2019 was the last time we did our podcast. So over a year ago, mate. And what a difference the world has been since then.
My God. Yep, absolutely. And you're looking just as handsome.
Oh, mate, you're very, very kind, mate. You're looking very fit. I mean, of course, being in Melbourne, I've been locked down for bloody months. You've been out to, enjoy the world. So we won't get into politics, mate, around that. So today we want to cover a few topics with you, and of course, one of those is going to be knowledge management, because that's the business that you're in. But also want to talk a little bit about Brad Shaw, the man, mate, because we've known each other for a long period of time. But for those that don't know you, I think it's fair to say you had your roots in recruitment and spent a lot of time in recruitment, and you're obviously the regional manager for Asia Pac for Kelly Services, and then you went into your own management consulting, sort of elite leadership group, mate. So it was a different road to get you to livepro. Tell me about those recruitment days, mate.
Oh, mate, I remember when I joined from a bank to recruitment, and everybody said, "What are you doing joining the great unwashed?" But the thing about recruitment is it is a tough game. It seriously is a tough game, but there's some great people in there, and I really enjoyed it because of the people. And, when it's a tough game, you learn a lot. And I definitely learned a lot. Did a lot of flying because I was the regional GM. So I used to have to fly to Detroit every 3 months for a one-day meeting. So it was 3 days worth of travel for a one-day meeting. Yeah. And they wondered why I fell asleep during the meetings. But, that was a long time ago. Then I got into coaching, and that was awesome. The guy that had the software company that serviced the recruitment company found out that I'd left Kelly and rang and said, "Look, what are you going to do? Because I've got a business coach. I've seen what you've done in Kelly, and I think I've outgrown the current one. What do you want to do?" And that grew into 320 customers over a 12-year period.
That's incredible.
And I think there was 120 different organizations and 40-something different industries, right from a guy that had a veterinary franchise, a guy that had a product that mapped the seabed floor, right through to AMP and that sort of thing. Although I really enjoyed the smaller business ones. You can get so much more done when you're in small business. Big businesses are all about how well do you play the politics, how well do you convince everybody that you're right, and it takes forever. Whereas smaller businesses, you can just get things going. I love it. And that's why I love livepro.
Fantastic. Well, that was going to be my next question. So you've done that. You helped a lot of businesses be successful through your coaching and mentoring. And then next thing you know, mate, you're running a tech company. What the hell happened?
Well, funny thing, I had about my first client as a coach was a tech guy. And so I had a lot of tech clients, and I learned a lot from them. And the part owner of livepro was a part of a CEO group that I used to run. Once a month, I used to get a bunch of CEOs together, and we'd get outside speakers in. And when you joined, you had to actually demonstrate the product, so everybody in the group knew what product you had. And I saw what he had with livepro, and I thought, wow, that was awesome.
Yep.
And it was only a small part of a big business, and the big business was sold to Ricoh. And Ricoh said, "Don't need this livepro product." And so I said to the owner, "What are you going to do with it?" He said, "I don't know." He said, and at that stage, Justin, it wasn't making any money and only had about 8 customers. And I said, "Well, you can't let it die. Why don't I see if I can find somebody that can run it for you?" And I've got this thing that you should not run a business unless you're passionate about it. And I wasn't passionate about livepro. I was passionate about livepro, the product, but I'm a business coach. And so I was passionate about that. So I spent 6 months going through, looking at all of my old contacts, seeing if they wanted to do it. But the business wasn't making any money, so they had to do it for no money and some equity. Couldn't do it, and then I was looking at what the business should do. And honestly, this is going to sound corny, but 2 a.m. one morning, I woke up with a business plan in my head for livepro, had to get it out of my head, finished it at about 5, sent an email to the guy that I was coaching and said, "You know what, I think I found the guy that's really passionate about livepro." And honestly, it's happened since then. And I bought into the business, and then over time I got a major share. And I am still extremely passionate about it. And the thing I love about it, as a business coach or as a businessman, I had to run a big business for somebody else. And so, you got to do it their way. And then as a business coach, I was coaching people on how to run their business. But, they do it their way. So with livepro, I've actually got to run a business the way I want to run it. And, the big focus is about, do you have really, really happy customers? And you only got to talk to any of my customers and they love it. And I'm proud of it. And I know it's going to sound corny and I know it's going to sound shallow, but I do, and my team does whatever we can to make sure the customers are happy. And the second thing is I have to have a great team. And those two things are the things that I'm most proud about. Everybody that listens to me knows just how proud I am of my team. It's hard to get into livepro. If I make a mistake, it's pretty easy for you to get out quickly. But anybody that deals with livepro knows how great the team is. So I get to now run a business that I love with a team that I love doing it with customers who I love working with. So it's almost the dream.
Oh, fantastic. Well, look, as I said, we've known each other for a while, and I know you're absolutely passionate about livepro and your team, because you're always passionate, you're consistent for the whole time I've known you about it. And I think anyone that knows you knows that's the case as well, right? So no dispute there. So now, of course, as you said, it wasn't making any money when you bought in, you had your business plan, but geez, the world's changed, right? And obviously from a contact center perspective, the calls that are coming in are just getting more and more complex. We've had so much automation that's come in, and, I always say to people, when's the last time you rang your bank to ask what your bank balance was, right? You never, because you pick up your phone, you look at your app, and there's the answer. So the only time you ever ring the bank is when you've got a complex issue. So now all of a sudden you've got all these agents going, oh God, how the hell do I answer this? It's really transformed contact centers. And so I guess it's not surprising there's been a huge growth in knowledge management platforms, not just yours, but of course right across the board, because it is just something that is so powerful for contact centers. For those that don't know what a knowledge management platform is, Brad, in simple terms, how would you explain it to people?
Okay. So look, knowledge management platforms is a bit like the word love. It means a different thing to different people. If I'm a lawyer, then I need a knowledge management platform that I can actually search for a case, research the case, and the amount of time it takes me to find the file, it might only be 10 minutes, and I'm going to read that file for 5 or 6 hours. So the ratio is not all that high. But if you've got a customer on the phone, you actually need to be able to get the answer quickly. So the knowledge management system for customer service actually has to deliver the answer. And one of the things I love saying is that customers want answers, not information. There's too many knowledge management systems out there that actually provide you with information. But if you're on a call with a client, or if you've got a client coming to your website, they don't want to read through a 30-page PDF to find an answer. They actually just want the answer. And that's where a good customer experience knowledge management system will actually take you directly to an answer. You need a great search, but you also need the format for how to deliver an answer. And there's different answers for different things. If I need a process, then I need a different type of answer. I need a step-by-step guide on how to do a process. Whereas if I actually just want to know the latest thing that's happened today, then I need to have information that pops up on the screen and says, you need to read this now because customers might phone you about this in any minute. And then there's you can have a really complex product that historically needs you to be learning all the different parts of it to be able to find the right answer for the customer. But a good customer experience knowledge management system actually has features in there that guides you to the right answer. And I'm really proud to say we've got a feature that nobody else in the world's got that we call Rocket. And it basically can triage you right through. We did a demo at one of our CX forums where one of our clients used to need to have full-time trained nurses on reception to book people in for radiology. And it used to take them 6 to 9 months to get their competency levels. During the forum, we got people in the audience to book somebody in for an ankle x-ray that typically would take a fully qualified nurse months to learn how to do. And that's the difference. The knowledge management system needs to be focused on delivering an answer, not information, and it needs to be taking you to the answer simply. And that's saved. I mean, we've had companies that have reduced their induction from 6 weeks down to 3 days because you don't teach people to memorize anything if you've got a system that can take it to the answer.
Yeah. So for those people that love stats, I'm going to put some stats up on the screen right now. But, as you said, one of the big advantages is, AHT reductions. We've spoken about those more complex calls typically taking longer. But if you can put that information up on the screen, rather than having to read a whole document and find the answer to the question the customer's asking, where it says, basically, here's the answer. So you typically from clients, you're getting around a 25% reduction in average handle time.
We've got a bank that reduced their AHT from 10 minutes to 6 minutes after introducing livepro. They used to have 5 people in their office walking around with fluoro vests that were the subject matter experts. And if you had a call that you didn't know the answer for, you put your hand up and the fluoro vest person came over and answered your question while you put the customer on hold. Within 8 weeks, they didn't have anybody with fluoro vests in their office at all because they didn't need it.
Yep.
And that's the power of actually delivering an answer rather than, policies you need to read through.
Yeah, absolutely. And I noticed one of the other advantages is that cutting transfers. Again, when people get a bit lost, they can't find the right answer. It's like, oh, you know what? I'll just handball you through to someone else, right? So,
exactly. Yeah. You can imagine what it's like when I phone my bank who don't use livepro, who transfers me 4 or 5 times. How frustrating it is for me just to want to say, hey, you know what? You could solve this problem. But anyway, it takes a little while for companies to catch on.
No, it does indeed. And now, of course, it's not just AHT and cutting transfers. I think one of the interesting things that you get from knowledge management is that improvement in staff engagement, Brad, because obviously from an agent's perspective, they get so frustrated, I should say, around not being able to find the information. They just want to help the customer. So when they're bloody looking around and they're going through Post-it notes and open up folders on the desk and the customer's going off at them, it's frustrating. So the fact that you empower them to actually manage customer inquiries means your staff engagement goes up.
Yeah, and look, it's a part of the big focus in livepro. When I walked into livepro, I said, there's no system implemented until everybody on the team is using it. So it's not about introducing it. It's about actually getting everybody to use it. So, my team have developed some really innovative and fun ways to make sure that the whole contact center, if it's 400 people in the Philippines and 300 people in Australia, it's not successful until everybody's using it. And so there's a lot of features and a lot of things that we do to do that. I think one of the most powerful things is just giving the agents the opportunity to have a say about what it looks like and what's in there. So when we set the system up, we run a survey called Name Me and Use and Feed Me. And the Feed Me part of that is, hey, what do you want in the system? And the second part is allowing the agent to quickly provide feedback. Like if you're on a piece of knowledge and you think, hey, you know what, you could put some related knowledge in here because the next question the customer always asks is this. Can you provide a link onto that? It takes 2 seconds to do it.
Yep.
There's even we've even got a part where if you search for something and there's no answer, there's a pop-up that says, oh, there's nothing in there at the moment. What do you want in there? So the no search result thing's pretty powerful as well. But as I said, it's all about whether the customer, whether the agents or even the customer, when they go to your website, can find the answer.
Yeah. And of course, one of the other benefits on top of that, Brad, is the reduction in, and you mentioned the example just before, but because the answers are there and they're so easy to get to, typically you can cut induction periods by around half, which is massive.
Yeah. And like I said, I bragged that we've had a number of clients that have reduced it from 6 weeks to 3 days. You can't put those stats up on the website because nobody believes them. So I don't actually try and promote that. But I love going to client sites. And I remember in the early days, I went to a number of them. And I sat with an agent and I asked her how she was going. And she'd been in the company for 6 weeks. And she said, Brad, unfortunately, I won't name the company, when I started in the company, there was no induction. I was put on the desk and said, use this system. She said, that is the only induction I've had. Now, I'm not recommending that, and I'm sure you wouldn't recommend that either.
No.
But if you've got a good system, you can get around a lot of those things.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, the phrase that gets thrown around a lot when you're talking knowledge management tool is that single source of truth. You've got one source, and, I can't tell you, and I'm sure you're the same, Brad, when you visited contact centers pre-livepro, of course, you walk around and literally everyone's got folders on their desk. They've got sticky notes all over their screens. And when you actually open the folders and you'll look at a process, and then I go on another agent's desk and open the same process, it's a different version. So, in the days where compliance and all these things are so important, that single source of truth becomes pretty critical, right?
It is critical. And the key is you got to know that they're actually reading the most current approved information. Yep. And if you can't prove to the compliance group that they are reading the most current approved information, then how are you going to do it? The other key thing with the single source of truth, though, with the digital age, I can't believe how many companies have a knowledge base for their chat and a knowledge base for their agents, and then FAQs on their website. I mean, you should just have that one central source of truth delivering the answer to whatever channel the customer wants to ask it. If they want to come to your front desk, you should be able to, the people on the front desk should be answering it. If they want to come to chat, they should be answering it through their email. We've got it connected to Salesforce and a number of other systems, because you just need to be delivering the answer through whatever channel the customer asks it. Yeah. And they're going to increase, aren't they? I mean, absolutely. Can you imagine in 10 years' time, you're sitting in your self-drive vehicle and you want to know an answer to something, and so you just say to Siri, "Hey Siri, can you book me into an MRI for my wrist?" And it'll take you through to it. And there's going to be so many different channels, and companies just need to find a knowledge system that takes the answer from the one database, say only managing it once. I know you want to get on to the next question, but I've got a really funny anecdote. There was one weekend, my wife had bought a little puppy for her daughter, and she was trying to get some pet insurance. And the telephone call that she made sounded a bit like this. Yeah, I know that's what you think it is, but if you go to your website, the PDF actually says this. Look, I know that, but that's not what's on your website. And so it just went on. Anyway, sadly one day we're going to overcome that.
I'm sure we will. Now, one of the other we've sort of touched on reduction in your induction periods and compliance and risk. Particularly, there's a lot of banks and insurance companies and stuff that are obviously using these tools as well. But the other thing I like around most of the knowledge management platforms that are available, including obviously livepro, is that you can get some analytics on what your staff are actually looking for, how often that article's been read, have they read it, etc. So it just gives you that holistic view around knowledge in your organisation.
Well, it's even broader than that now, because if you connect your knowledge base to the different digital channels, you can actually now see that a customer has come onto your website and searched for three things. And then LifePro's got a feature where if you come onto the website and you search for something, there's nothing there, we got a pop-up that says, hey, there's nothing on our website, but we really want to answer your question. Can we connect you to an agent? Would you like to email us? Would you like to chat with us? And that analytics can actually show you, one, what's not being answered on the website, so you can fix it next time. Yep. But you can also see the customer journey. And I don't know of any other analytics that provide you with that full digital to customer agent analytics. And yes, of course, you can see what knowledge is being trending, but from a customer service area, you've got to actually see what feedback you're getting on different ones and what knowledge isn't being used. Yeah, what's out of date. Yeah. So the analytics is something, particularly the marketing groups, they love it. But from a contact center, in contact centers, you know what it's like in contact centers. You're measured on every single thing you do. I mean, how much time have you got to leave your desk and go to the toilet? So the measurements that you can get with a good knowledge management system gives the team leaders and the managers a lot of insight.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, I touched on this before we started recording, Brad, that the recent Smart Recruitment Report, it was a 100-page industry report, and I was lucky enough to help out Smart with putting the report together. And one of the sections I wrote and spoke about was customer experience. So I put a question in there, Brad, which I thought might have been interesting to you. And it was basically asking how many organisations or contact centres are using knowledge management platforms at the moment. And the response out of that was there was over 150 call centres or contact centres that responded, and it was literally 50-50. So 50% of them are using them, 50 aren't. And I guess...
How are they finding the answer? Like, do you ask yourself, what does the agent do?
That's right. I wonder what the other 50 are doing. But one of the things I wanted to clarify though, Brad, and I made a big point of it when I was presenting as well, I reckon there's a lot of people that go, oh no, we've got a knowledge management platform. We use Microsoft Sharepoint, or we use Microsoft Word, or we've got all our answers in an Excel document. But guess what? Yeah, you don't have a knowledge management platform, right?
No, but Les Reed, who's the global head of sales for livepro, loves saying that his laptop is a knowledge management system because you got a bunch of files in there, you can get it out. And as I said earlier, knowledge management's different things to different people, but I go back to what I said earlier. You need in customer service, you need a knowledge management system that delivers an answer, not information. And if you're not doing that, that bank that I mentioned that reduced their AHT from 10 minutes to 6 minutes, they actually had the best SharePoint application that I'd ever seen. It seriously was very, very good, but they weren't getting the staff engagement. And so their big thing wasn't to reduce AHT. It wasn't to, necessarily even to improve customer satisfaction. It was all about staff engagement. And I'm really proud to say that the staff engagement went up from 59 to 87% when they got livepro in. And, it's just because it was taking them to the answer. And they actually had a knowledge management system fit for purpose. It wasn't a SharePoint system that took them to a document that they weren't sure was really right, and it wasn't really formatted the way you wanted it, and and they couldn't give feedback on it. So it is a big difference. But I go back to you spend your life in contact centers. Can you believe that there's poor agents out there that don't actually have one place to go to find an answer? I mean, how much hell would that be?
Mate, I see it all the time, unfortunately. My core work is obviously consulting, and typically I'm called in to go and see call centres who are struggling for a whole bunch of reasons. And literally on my little checklist of things, I'm always going, well, where's the knowledge management platform? And it's always number one. And the recommendations, if you want to transform your business, I should say, for a relatively low cost. Now, I'm not saying undervalue it, but I think, when some of the expensive platforms are out there, and you can go and get a knowledge management platform from anywhere from, say, $20 to $50 a month per agent. I know it's a broad scale, but what we're not saying it's ridiculously expensive, and it can transform your business. So I think that's why people are slowly starting to catch on. And I think the more you get industry leaders like yourself talking about it out there in forums, and people see them and they go, oh wow, how do we function without this? Right? It becomes so central to your business.
I know. Yeah, we had with our knowledge forum, we give awards out to organisations that make the biggest improvement. We had one small council who only has 6 customer service staff that were using livepro, and they get a customer satisfaction survey done every 6 months. They had their 6 staff turnover in 12 months. Wow! But using livepro, they were actually able to improve their customer satisfaction scores to the point now where they are the second highest customer satisfaction score out of the whole group. I think there's 180 organisations, because the answers are there. But can you imagine losing 6 key staff?
Well, I think one of the challenges that we've seen in the industry for the year dot since I started was turnover, and you would have seen it in your recruitment days, of course, as well, right?
Oh, yeah. So I loved it.
I bet. And it's still around about sort of 40-45% is the average turnover rate. Now, of that, half of those are internal and half of them leave externally, but the result is still the same for the call center. You've got to replace them. And of course, the risk, as you said, in those smaller centers, if a lot of the knowledge typically sits in staff's heads. Jenny, who's been in there for 20 years, knows everything, and she leaves, and all of a sudden everyone's going, oh crap, I don't know anything. So you're right. The advantage of having a knowledge management platform in your business is that you can bring new people in, people can leave, the knowledge stays there, right? You don't lose all the IP that goes with it. So huge advantages. You touched on.
I've got another funny story. You know what I'm like with funny stories. I mentioned when you get Live Pro, you get a name me and feed me competition. The name me is that the staff get to name the system.
Right.
Well, there was a small council in Tasmania, and there was a person there that knew everything, and he'd been there for 35 years. He was about to retire, and his name was Clive. That council called Live Pro Clive. 6 years on, if you want to know something, you still ask Clive. you go to Live Pro.
Love it. Good story. I love it. Yeah. Oh, that is good. Have you had any that just didn't get past the keeper? A few nominations that just didn't fly, Brad?
Yeah, my lad. There was a superannuation company that was going to call it the wife. If you want to know something, ask the wife.
Yep.
But what the acronym was where I find everything, but HR didn't like them having.
No, the political correctness police were a bit all over that one, I'm sure. So now you touched on it earlier, Brad. You have the CX Knowledge Forum, and it's something that you've been doing annually for the last few years. I know this year you had hundreds of people dial in, a little bit different, obviously, when physically to virtual. But now that's obviously not all about Live Pro. It's about sort of getting CX experts in and contact center experts in. So I'd just love to pick your brain for a little bit. What are some of the things that stood out from you, mate, from hearing from some of the best in the business?
Well, the thing that I love, and the reason for the forums, is that Live Pro understands that the system's only as good as the people use it. And what we want to do, we want to be responsible for actually developing knowledge experts everywhere. And so, you're invited whether you're a Live Pro user or not. And the innovative things that people are doing to deliver an answer to an agent or a customer is what I get inspired for all the time. I told you about the radiology group. That was inspiring. I mean, I really missed it this year. We normally have our forums, one in every state, because it just gives me an opportunity to go and hang out with the customers for a day.
Yep.
And it's so much fun. And my team, back onto my team, sorry, man. My team always likes to make it fun. And so it was a bit of a challenge this year doing the WebEx, but again, it worked brilliantly because the group were engaged. Yep. There was so much interaction in a webinar. I mean, we're all a little bit over the webinars at the moment, aren't we? And I thought that maybe ours might fall flat, but it worked really well. But it all comes down to the different knowledge people, knowledge experts, sharing the way that they're delivering the answer through different channels.
Yep.
And actually just using our system in an innovative way, but connecting it to telephony systems and their CRMs and all that sort of stuff. So we get most of our new features from our clients, and those forums are just so powerful for clients to be able to say, well, why don't we do it like this? And why can't you do it like that? So I love them, and they're very helpful. The awards that we give out are just to recognise those people that spend, their life educating the world, but also improving how customers are delivered answers.
Do you think with all things happening, COVID, and obviously the rapid escalation of remote homework for contact center agents, I think again in that industry survey we're up to about, don't quote me now, I think it was about 70% I think now actively working from home on any given day, and it was up from about 20% pre-COVID. So obviously been a huge transformation, and I can't see personally that that's going to change anytime soon. I think remote's here to stay. Does that help your business, mate? My gut feel is absolutely, because now you need more of a single source of truth because people are scattered everywhere. Has it been good for business though, Brad?
It's also not as good as it should have been, but businessmen
always want more, Brad. Always want more.
We always want more. I saw a survey recently that said that 19% of people's time is spent looking for information.
Mm-hmm.
Now, back in the day when you're in the office, you could yell out to somebody and say, hey, who's got so-and-so, or can somebody tell me where to find it?
Yep.
So you can imagine what it's like when you don't have that.
Yeah.
And but when the big flurry happened and everybody had to get all the technology and everything sorted out to work from home, the people didn't have time to find new systems. They actually had to get themselves set up in the existing ones. So it's starting now for organizations to think, all right, this is going to happen, and it's going to be a part of life for at least a while, if not forever. Like you said, not everybody's going to go back to the office. And now we're starting to get organizations realizing that their current knowledge system may have worked okay when they could turn to somebody else, but they need something that's way broader. The big area was that livepro, being customer experience knowledge, has product, process, company information and procedures in there. But mostly organizations were still only using it in livepro, in the contact center, I mean. As soon as the COVID happened and people had to work from home, a lot of organizations said, oh, okay, we better share this out with the rest of the organization. And we quickly adapted to that. Because when you're in the contact center, you need all those analytics. You need personalized notices going out. But if you're only going to log in once every 6 weeks to find out an HR policy or something like that, you have a different experience. So we've now built an intranet style system so organizations are now using livepro in a broader area. But to answer your initial question, there's not enough, but hopefully this podcast will help.
Well, mate, let's hope so. Now, for those of you there we go. So, so people
scroll up a little bit. Scroll up on that.
Mate, I can't. It was a video, man. I can't scroll up. So, but of course
you are in that video.
You are in the top spot, mate. So that's well done, and that's the beauty of getting in first on our directory. So thank you for investing in our directory a long time ago, mate. It's much appreciated.
Look, there's got to be competition, and I'm happy for everybody to be judging us against anybody that's out on the market. I honestly believe that we have the best in the world. And, we recently won the global deal for Weight Watchers. They're using livepro from New York to deliver it to 16 global regions. So it's right throughout the world they're using livepro. And they had a look at all of the systems throughout the world. So the Aussies should be pretty proud. We've got a system that is the best in the world.
Absolutely, mate. It's great to see any Aussie business doing well on the global stage. Now, in terms of just a last question before we sort of wrap things up, more around broadly CX, Brad, and contact centers, because there's been, a huge change with not just COVID, but I think customer experience as a whole is gaining momentum. All of a sudden now, products, people are competing now on customer experience, not price and products, right? We've seen stats and surveys talking about that for a long time, but it's actually starting to happen. I can go to any bank, and you said, your bank doesn't use livepro, and you can go to any bank, right? And they'll all offer you a home loan, a credit card, a savings account. The interest rates are all pretty much the same. So, why am I choosing bank A over bank B is starting to come down to that customer experience, right? And particularly for us, customer service, of course. Are you seeing that sort of with your client base as well, that they're using this primarily? Is it to save time? Because there's no doubt, Brad, there's money savings. If I can shave 25% off your average handle time, that's a huge cost saving, and that might be driver for a business, full stop. We spoke about staff engagement going up. That's obviously a driver. But of course, customer experience and providing customers with quick answers, getting them off the phone quicker, happier, all that sort of stuff is a big driver. What do you think is the main reason people are sort of going, hey, let's get this going?
Yeah, it does go through phases. A couple of years ago, it was about staff engagement. But the two big things at the moment is still staff engagement and customer satisfaction. When the Royal Commission was out for banking and finance, it was all about compliance and making sure you deliver the answer. But we have more than 50% of the prospects that are looking at livepro say, look, it's not about saving costs. Show us how it's going to be able to deliver a better experience for customers. So, we've heard a lot of companies talk about it, but we are seeing a fair bit of difference now. It should be a lot more. As I said about livepro, it's, the company livepro is all about customer experience and our customers loving us. But companies are slowly getting it, and they're realizing that the way to do that is to arm the customer for self-serve in the right way, rather than a couple of 10 static FAQs. But then when they can't serve themselves for whatever reason, because they're in a hurry, or it's a really complex issue, they want to be able to talk to an agent that sounds like they know everything. And that's why our agents, the agents that use livepro, love it, because they just sound like experts.
Yep. Brad, there's no question when we started this, we spoke about passion. And I think the one thing we've learned over this podcast, if people can't hear that in your voice, then they need to get a hearing check, mate, because you're obviously very passionate about not just livepro, and as you should be, because it's a company that you've built, but of course also about just knowledge management in general and how that is empowering for your agents and obviously for customers. So, mate, I know you're an extremely busy man, so thank you for giving up a bit of your time, mate, and sharing some of your wisdom. It's always great to hear, the people that are actually in the coalface and are making a difference out there in our industry, mate. So keep up the awesome work.
Thank you. And congratulations to you. The work that you've done promoting and helping contact centres improve and just promoting the contact centre industry and is just remarkable. So I know you weren't expecting that, but congratulations.
Thank you, Brad. Well, you and I are both very proud of working in the industry as well. And now, if people are still listening, mate, it is also worth mentioning that got a good deal for them, Brad, because I know you're a salesman at heart. So if you are looking at if Brad's just gone, wow, I want one of those livepro systems, ring up livepro, do the numbers on their website, and just make sure you mention CX Central, and he'll give you the first 2 months free. So it's a great opportunity for anyone who's interested in going ahead and empowering their agents to give them the right answers at the right time.
Awesome. And just give us a ring. I'm sure I'm going to be inundated with your followers, Justin. And thanks again, mate. I really appreciate it. Let's stay in touch.
Good on you, Brad.
Go, mate. Catch up.